So I'm getting really excited about this movie. This movie I think will be one of Quentin Tarantino's finest movies. But when you go through this movie, there seems to be so many bizarre connections, both on screen and off screen. And there's many facts that make this movie really fascinating and just add to the whole drama of this movie. And it really shows Quentin Tarantino's almost genius level of crafting a story and the way it's all put together. And I think it's just going to be completely fascinating. Even if you're just looking for a piece of popcorn entertainment, or whether you really want to study the whole storyline, I think this is going to be a great movie. Now, the premise of this movie is that it's based on a failed television actor and his stunt double who strive to achieve fame and success in the film industry during the final years of Hollywood's golden age in 1969 Los Angeles. So that is the plotline that's been put out by Quentin Tarantino. And I've got a number of points. Now, none of these are spoilers, because I don't know the whole storyline of this movie. But there's a whole host of fascinating facts and connections. Now, Quentin Tarantino has said that he worked on the screenplay for 5 years, and it's his longest he's spent on a single screenplay. And I think the reason for that is for him spending the time to study all the connections of this movie, because it's almost bizarre and completely fascinating, especially if you're interested in Hollywood and what happens behind the scenes, and even at the end of this golden era in the 1960s. Now, Quentin Tarantino was scheduled to make this film for the Weinstein Company, but when the news broke about the sexual assault allegations against co-chairman Harvey Weinstein, Tarantino severed ties with the Weinstein Company, but he later signed a deal with Sony to release this picture. Now, legendary actor Burt Reynolds was originally cast as George Spahn, the ranch owner, but he sadly passed away weeks before he was scheduled to shoot his scenes, and Bruce Dern is set to replace him in the role. Now, this ranch is a very famous ranch, and it's where many of the black and white cowboy movies and TV shows were filmed, because of its central location within Los Angeles. But the ranch is also where the Manson family lived. So this ranch plays a central role, and it's one of the connecting factors of this movie. There's also more connections surrounding Burt Reynolds, so this is going to show just how much Quentin Tarantino has spent time studying this whole plot line. Now, the two lead characters appear to be inspired by a quote from Nancy Pittman, who was a follower of Charles Manson. And she said, "We are what you have made us. We were brought up on your TV. We were brought up watching Gunsmoke and Have Gun Will Travel." So both of these were Western TV shows, and they're both featured as lead characters. So this shows that Quentin Tarantino has studied Manson murders, the influences behind it, and then created characters based on those influences. So when Nancy Pittman tried to give an excuse for the murders, Quentin Tarantino has taken that excuse and built characters around them, which are the roles played by Brad Pitt and Leonardo DiCaprio. Now, there was also two daughters of previous actors that Quentin Tarantino has worked with. So the first one is Rumor Willis, who is the daughter of Bruce Willis, who appears in this film. And obviously, Tarantino previously worked with her father in Pulp Fiction in 1994. Now, the second one is Maya Hawke, who appears as a flower girl, and she is the daughter of Uma Thurman. And Thurman has starred in 3 movies directed by Quentin Tarantino, again, Pulp Fiction, Kill Bill Volume 1 and 2. So now Quentin Tarantino is actually working with the children of the movie stars that he's previously worked with over the last 20 years. Now, when Nancy Pittman blamed it on the TV shows, the Western TV shows, it appears that Quentin Tarantino has gone out and created these two actors who worked in Western TV shows. But the actual two actors are also based on two lead characters who are thought to be based on Burt Reynolds and his stunt double Hal Needham. And that pair collaborated on films like Smokey and the Bandit, Hooper and Cannonball Run, and were close friends, and Needham even lived in Burt Reynolds' guest house for 12 years. So the two characters played by Brad Pitt and Leonardo DiCaprio were generated or created from the Manson murders, but they were built around Burt Reynolds and his stunt double Hal Needham. So that just goes to show what Quentin Tarantino has done to study these and find the influences for these characters. And again, Burt Reynolds was due to appear in this movie before he passed away. Now, another thing that really excites me about this movie is that Quentin Tarantino has stated that the story consists of multiple parallel stories and will be the closest thing to one of his earlier movies like Pulp Fiction. So this is what really intrigues most people, that this movie will be based on parallel stories. They all emanate or focus around the Manson murders or influence around them. And this just goes to show the whole connection. So the movie features the roles of Bruce Lee and Steve McQueen, and they were both clients of a celebrity hairstylist by the name of Jay Sebring, who's being played by Emile Hirsch, who I think is a great actor. Now, Jay Sebring once dated Sharon Tate, who was murdered by the members of the Manson family in the home she shared with Roman Polanski. And Jay Sebring also played a crucial role in helping to introduce Bruce Lee to movie and television producers. So this movie is all about connections, and it's actually a hairstylist who plays the central role. This hairstylist, like Jay Sebring, he dated Sharon Tate, who was obviously murdered, and also Jay Sebring, he was also murdered by the Manson family. But Jay Sebring knew all the celebrities, and he helped the careers of people like Bruce Lee. So that is why Bruce Lee is in this movie, because he knew, or he was a client of Jay Sebring, and the same with Steve McQueen. So Steve McQueen appears in this movie, and again, he was a client of Jay Sebring. So without the hairstylist, this movie wouldn't have these type of characters like Bruce Lee and Steve McQueen. So it's really, again, just the fascinating genius level that Quentin Tarantino has done to study this movie and study the plot lines. And that's why the screenplay took 5 years to write, because it's gone to the detail of researching what happened and building all these characters into the movies based on the connection of a hairstylist. He's almost genius and very clever. But there's also a number of deaths surrounding this movie. So this movie is actually Luke Perry's last film, and Luke Perry suffered a massive stroke in late February 2019 and ultimately passed away on March 4, 2019. And his character is a homage to Wayne Mauder, who was a television star in the 1960s. And Mauder died on November 11, 2018, 10 days after the film wrapped up on Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. So the movie is based on deaths, and also some of the actors like Burt Reynolds and Luke Perry also passed away around the time of this filming. So Luke Perry passed away once the movie was completed, and Burt Reynolds actually passed away 2 weeks before. So there's many connections both within the storyline and also at the filming of this movie, all based around quite the morbid sense of death. And it's really fascinating actually what's happened throughout the filming of this movie and how the movie was written and created. But another actress to appear in this movie is actually Harley Quinn Smith, and she's the daughter of director and actor Kevin Smith, and she plays a character alongside Margot Robbie. And Margot Robbie plays the role of Harley Quinn in Suicide Squad and the upcoming movie Birds of Prey. So there's connections even with other movies that are quite bizarre, even by the real names of the actresses playing in these movies. So Harley Quinn is played by Margot Robbie, and Margot Robbie is going to be in both this movie and Birds of Prey, playing the role of Harley Quinn. So it's just that these bewildering connections that are going on inside the movie, off screen, in terms of what Quentin Tarantino has brought together, and also in terms of other movies that are not related to this movie at all. It's almost bewildering and really fascinating connections that are going on. Now, there were other actors and actresses that were linked to this movie. So one of them is Samuel L. Jackson and Jennifer Lawrence. But it's also reported that Tom Cruise was due to appear in this movie, but he was too busy filming Top Gun 2. Now, Brad Pitt didn't originally want to appear in this movie because his original character was a detective who was investigating the Sharon Tate murders. But Brad Pitt said he didn't want to appear as a detective, so Quentin Tarantino changed his role to a sidekick of the character played by Leonardo DiCaprio. But it is reported that Tom Cruise did actually audition for a role, but pulled out because he was too busy filming Top Gun 2. Now, this is also another bizarre connection. It's really really strange connection. So the romantic partners of co-stars Leonardo DiCaprio and Al Pacino are Camilla Morrone, who's 21, and Alicia Sola, who are mother and daughter. So Leonardo DiCaprio is obviously in this movie, and so is Al Pacino. Al Pacino plays the agent of Leonardo DiCaprio, and Leonardo DiCaprio is dating Camilla Morrone, and Al Pacino is dating Alicia Sola. So there's romantic connections off screen who are mother and daughter, and they play roles together in this movie. Again, just very strange, very bizarre connections running throughout this whole movie. Quentin Tarantino claimed to have written a role specifically for Al Pacino in the film, and Pacino would later be cast as Marvin Schwartz, a fictitious Hollywood agent to DiCaprio's character. And this is the first time that DiCaprio and Al Pacino appear in the movie together. But they're actually dating each other's mother and daughter off screen. It's very bizarre. All the connections in this movie are very bizarre. Now, the title of this movie is thought to be a homage to Sergio Leone, who has directed Once Upon a Time in the West, as well as Once Upon a Time in America. And Sergio Leone is thought to be Quentin Tarantino's favourite director, so that is where the title of this movie comes from. Now, this is the last image, and it's a very strange image, because when you see this image and what the character is doing, it's completely different to what Leonardo DiCaprio is also doing throughout this movie. And again, this is what makes this movie so fascinating, because Leonardo DiCaprio plays a cowboy who is coming to the end of his career. So this image is very strange, and that's what makes it another fascinating movie. So I can't wait to see this movie, but the whole connections of the storyline in terms of the Manson murders, and also the connections of the actors that Quentin Tarantino hired or have also passed away even before the movie was made or after, are just bizarre. So this movie, to me, will be a high quality movie, but also a really fascinating one. The connections off screen, the Hollywood gossip, the Manson murders, the way the characters were created, is almost genius level from Quentin Tarantino, but very bizarre connections. So I hope you have found this video interesting. Now, if you would like to like and subscribe, that would be fantastic. But also share it with your friends, because this movie is just really fascinating. It's going to be a great movie, but very bizarre connections, almost bewildering connections taking place throughout this movie. So again, hope you like this video, and also like and subscribe.